Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, it is cold and rainy out. We just got back off the water for a nice half day on Lake Chickamauga, and we're still, even though it rained about an inch while we were out there, we're still warm and dry. And so on this video, I had some people ask me about rain gear recently, so I'm going to do a video about rain gear, just kind of a review on some of the best rain gear suits that I've used over the years. I've used a lot of them. But more importantly, I think this video is way more important than just doing a review on rain gear. More importantly, I want to talk about the layering system that I use to stay warm even in the coldest and wettest conditions. Choosing clothing very carefully in these type of scenarios is super important. I've been working in Alaska for 19 seasons now and have really, learned how to layer, for cold weather, for extreme conditions, up there. And I've adopted a lot of what I've learned up there and how I dress up there for bass fishing down here. And that really, I did not, use all these principles as strict as I do up there until like 5 or 6 years ago, to be completely honest. In fact, I remember the moment that I knew I needed to start dressing exactly like I do in the cold weather up in Alaska was the final day of the FLW Tour event, my rookie season. And that final day, it was extremely cold. I mean, it was like 18 degrees early that morning. And the water temps were, 40s, something around there. And I ended up, after catching a like 6.5 pound fish, I ended up falling in the water, and for the rest of the day, it just took everything out of me. I was not dressed. I wasn't dressed terribly, but I was not dressed as well as I should. I didn't have the top layers that I needed to stay warm under those conditions. In fact, if you go back and look at the coverage of that tournament, when I get on stage, I'm wearing like sweatpants and stuff. I even had one of the guys at FLW comment like, dude, you just got your highest finish and you're wearing sweatpants on stage. That was just because that was what I had in the boat that was dry. But anyways, that was the tournament that really, opened my eyes to the fact that I need to dress exactly like I do in any other extreme condition. So I wanted to show you how I dress. I feel like it's a really good system. And so yeah, let's get started. The very first thing that you need to pay attention to when it comes to choosing the right clothing for cold, wet conditions is the material, especially the material closest to your skin. You can see here I've got just a simple fleece. This is like long underwear that you can find at Bass Pro Shops. This is like the heavyweight polyester material. This is generally used as just kind of a base layer or a mid layer for like duck hunting or something like that. Cold, wet conditions, which is exactly what we're talking about. And the material is ultra important because there are still, fishing clothing manufacturers, fishing apparel companies that are making cold weather gear out of cotton. Cotton is the worst material that you can possibly put against your skin when it's cold and wet, because it's only going to get colder if it gets wet. So cotton essentially will pull your body heat away from you. But polyester, synthetics like polyester and wool is perhaps the best. This right here is merino wool. This is more of a light base layer. It's a hooded, pretty thin shirt, but it's made of wool. This is a Kuyu hunting shirt. But wool essentially is going to keep that heat in. Even if it gets completely drenched, it's absolutely, full of water, that fabric is still going to keep your body heat. It's going to work for you to maintain your body temperature. So the same thing with a polyester. I don't think it's quite as good as wool in the wettest conditions, but it's still very, very good at keeping you warm when it is very cold out. So that is the first thing. Get rid of cotton. Even if it's like 3 layers on top You know, just cotton is just not a material that you want to use on those long, if you're going out for a tournament day and it is like 40, 50 degrees and it's raining all day or even colder than that, do not wear cotton. I'm telling you, you're going to thank me later. The next thing that you need to think about is layering, which is pretty much the whole thing we're talking about. But people have always thrown out that term layering. And I remember it wasn't too long ago that my whole principle for layering was like an onion. Like I had like 3 or 4 different layers that kept me warm. Nowadays, my layering system is way more efficient. Like today, all I had on was this long sleeve fleece. Okay, so long underwear. This is redhead stuff from Bass Pro. So you had this against my skin, polyester. And then on top of that, and this is the top that we're talking about right now. We'll get to the bottoms after this. And then all I had on top of this was this vest here. I've had this Columbia vest for a long time. It's got those reflective heat things in there. But anyways, this is good down vest. And that's all. That's all I needed under my rain gear. So all I had on top of this was my Simms rain gear. And this is the best system. Like a vest is one of the best hacks that I've found for staying dry and warm in wet and cold conditions, okay? Believe me, I've run so many times with a base layer and then a fleece and then a sweatshirt and then a puffer jacket or, you know, rain gear. And you just have so little range of motion when you have that many layers on. But with this, I have complete range of motion, okay? You know, it gets a little bit stiffer once you put your rain gear on, but you have way more ability to move around, reach down and grab a rod, all that stuff, if you really incorporate a very warm vest into your layering arsenal. Really, this is all you need. Day like today, it was 52 degrees was the high. In fact, I don't even think I got to the high today because it's 1 o'clock right now and we got off the water about an hour and a half ago. So, you know, all this was all I needed. So that is my layering for the top. And then of course you have the rain gear on top of that. Yes, there are gonna be times when you need more. And if I end up, you know, going out when it's super, super cold and maybe it's not raining, but it's super, super cold, a good down jacket like this is a Simms down jacket. This is really nice. You know, I'll still use the fleece, but then I have the jacket underneath it. But one thing that I don't do hardly at all anymore is I don't wear a bunch of just sweatshirts when it's really, really cold. When it's cool or just somewhat cold, yeah, I'll wear sweatshirts. I love wearing hoodies. But nowadays, you know, if it is cold, especially if it's raining, it's just all about these you know, heavyweight base layer fleeces, or even, you know, midweight, you know, depending on how cold it is and the conditions. And then, you know, the top layer might just be a puffer jacket like this if it's not raining. All right, so very, very simple. Try to utilize those vests to keep your core pretty warm and keep your range of motion. All right, so use a good base layer, the vest, that should keep you pretty warm underneath your rain gear. Next, you can't see it, I'll put some footage in here. The bottoms that you wear is really important. You don't want to wear like jeans or something like that. Again, you're looking for polyester or wool. But the pants that I like to wear when it's really, really cold and wet are actually from commercial crabbers up in Alaska. This right here that I'm wearing today, these are Grundens. I don't know exactly what model these are. They're like heavy duty utility sweatpants, okay? They've got a clip around the waist, you know, kind of this built-in belt. They've got zipper pockets. They're really soft. They fit really well. I've also got a pair of, you know, similar pants that are a little bit more baggy from Guy Cotton, but in general, I'm looking for a pretty heavy-duty fleece style of pant. that I wear underneath my rain gear, okay? And the great thing is when you take your rain gear off, you can still just wear these heavy duty fleeces because they're just, you know, they're just essentially big fleece pants. So I don't have to like have a pair of jeans or something to get into like you would with just a light pair of Long Johns or something like that. You don't want to go into the gas station in a pair of Long Johns, but these are like just pants. And then of course you're wearing, polyester or wool socks. That's super important. And then good like rubber boots. So the boots that I like to wear today, I'm wearing the Sims, rubber boots. They've got a lot of neoprene and stuff on them. But these are good old Alaska sneakers here. These are extra toughs that I wear in Alaska. This is, I mean, honestly, these Sims are really good for the ultra cold weather, but for most of just the wet, cool, or cold weather, I like the extra toughs. They're just super comfortable, and they bring me back to Alaska, which is not a bad thing either. But rain boots, very, very important. You don't want your feet to get cold, okay? So wool is super important. Do not ever wear cotton socks. Don't wear cotton at all in cold, wet conditions, but definitely not on your feet, okay? That you can lose a lot of heat through your feet. Other than that, that's pretty much the gist of it. It's really all about being very efficient with the type of clothing that you're layering with. That way you still can move around, you don't feel weighted down, and it keeps you warm even if you get a little bit cold. Anyways, guys, that is my layering system. Hopefully this was informative and helpful for you. I think that we tend to lower our guard a little bit in this part of the country, right? Because the conditions aren't all that severe all the time. In Alaska, people are prepared for wet, cold weather because that's the norm, and they know how dangerous it is. And so you don't want to take it for granted. You don't want to let your guard down. Make sure that you layer and dress properly for the conditions. So, and also keep an extra pair of clothing in your boat in a dry bag. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll put a link below to my favorite rain gear and some clothes that you can find on Tackle Warehouse. But other than that, I'm going to see you guys out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.